The love story between James and Diep is far from simple. When the family faces a crisis, with the mother falling ill and the company on the brink of collapse, can Diep's sincere love save everything? Watch this heartfelt story about family and love unfold. How did a powerful woman like James's mother decide to hand over the company to Diep, a quiet girl without a prestigious background? Can Diep overcome this challenge and run the company without disappointing James's mother? When James's mother was hospitalized due to worrying about her son, what did Diep do to prove her sincere feelings for her? Did her dedication and care change the mother's perception of her? In his most difficult moments, will James realize that Diep's love is not just about being a caring girlfriend but also the sacrifice and devotion of a potential daughter-in-law? And when James's mother entrusted Diep with the company's management, was this a wise decision or just the final test for the young girl? Most importantly, will the love between James and Diep be strong enough to overcome all obstacles and build the happy family that James's mother hopes for? If you love this story and want to see more emotional moments, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss the next exciting videos. Share this story with your friends to experience these meaningful moments together. Ever since the incident involving John and the company, a heavy, unsettling atmosphere had hung over the Tran family estate. As the head of the family and a woman who had steered the business through countless storms, James's mother carried a quiet, constant worry in her heart. She didn't say much, but it was evident in her increasingly pensive eyes and the late nights when the light in her study stayed on far past midnight. She worried for James, her only son, the one in whom she had placed all her hopes. John, once a friend and trusted partner, had now become a source of fracture and uncertainty within the company. She feared James would be too sentimental, too forgiving, and that such softness could harm not just his future but that of the entire family legacy. These concerns gnawed at her day by day. Even though she was already in her 60s, she still stayed up late and rose early, combing through financial reports and reviewing every detail related to John. Every time she saw James sitting alone on the balcony, lost in thought, her heart ached. As a mother, she knew her son was trying to carry far too much on his shoulders, and some wounds, no matter how much strength or time one had, were not easy to heal. Then one morning, the unthinkable happened. James was about to leave the house when a strange sound came from the downstairs study. Rushing in, he was horrified to find his mother collapsed on the floor, her face pale and her breathing shallow. "Mom!" James cried out, panic gripping him as he fumbled to call for an ambulance, nearly dropping his phone in the process. The news of her hospitalization quickly spread through the family and company, and everyone was deeply concerned. Diep, the woman who had stood by James through thick and thin, immediately dropped everything to come to the hospital. She didn't ask questions or panic, she simply took his hand and said, "I'll stay with you. Let's take care of her together." Her voice was calm, firm, and full of warmth. In that moment, James felt a weight lift from his shoulders, just knowing he wasn't alone. At the hospital, James's mother was diagnosed with severe physical exhaustion, compounded by chronic high blood pressure. The doctors insisted on absolute rest, no emotional stress, and a consistent presence of family members for care. James decided to take a leave from the company to stay by her side. Diep also requested extended time off so she could be there with him. Together, they took turns caring for her, and their devotion moved everyone, from nurses to doctors. Diep was gentle and attentive in every way. She managed not only meals and medication, but also the small details, whether the pillow was soft enough, if the room lighting was too harsh, or simply making sure the room stayed quiet so James's mother could sleep. James, too, had visibly changed. No longer the distant, business-like executive, he became a son full of gentleness and quiet care. One night, when his mother woke up in the middle of the night, she saw him asleep beside her bed, and Diep sitting nearby, softly massaging her hand. Her eyes welled with tears. Those days in the hospital were filled with deep emotion. It wasn't just about recovering physically, it was a time when James's mother could truly feel the love and unity of those around her. In her fatigue, she began to realize something important. Diep was not only kind and intelligent, but also the kind of woman who could take care of James, someone who could carry on the vision and dedication she had spent a lifetime building. And in those quiet, fragile moments, a seed of trust silently took root in her heart, a trust in Diep, and in the future happiness she had always dreamed of for her son. The days James's mother spent in the hospital were full of challenges, but also filled with quiet, heartfelt moments. Hospitals are rarely comforting places, especially for the elderly. Yet in that stillness, between the hum of machines and hurried footsteps in the hallway, something unexpected unfolded, moments so warm and genuine that James's mother could not ignore. She came to realize that sometimes, true love doesn't need to be spoken, it's shown in the smallest, most delicate details. Diep was not the type of girl who expressed emotions openly. She moved gently through everything, like a soft breeze. In the early morning, while James's mother was still groggy from sleep, Diep would already be there, bringing a bowl of warm porridge she had cooked herself. At noon, she would carefully help her sit up, feeding her spoon by spoon, her soft smile easing the fatigue from the old woman's face. In the evening, she arranged the blanket and pillow for James on the long hospital bench, then sat beside his mother, massaging her hands and feet so she could rest more comfortably. Diep didn't say much, but the way she did everything with calmness, patience, and thoughtfulness touched the heart of a mother. Whenever James's mother had a headache, Diep knew exactly which brand of medicated oil she preferred. On sleepless nights, she would softly tell stories from James's childhood, her gentle voice soothing her into peaceful slumber. She never asked for anything, but her eyes were always on James, eyes full of affection, concern, and an unspoken willingness to carry the burden with him. One afternoon, while James was out buying medicine, his mother suddenly asked, "How long have you loved James?" Diep paused for a moment, then quietly replied, "For quite some time now, ma'am. But it hasn't always been easy with his work, family matters, and the pressure he carries. I just try to stay beside him and be a calm place for him to return to." James's mother didn't respond immediately, she simply nodded. Her gaze lingered on Diep, thoughtful yet filled with a soft warmth. She understood, deeply, how hard it must be to love someone like James, strong on the outside, but quietly carrying wounds on the inside. Most women wanted to be protected. But Diep chose to stand beside him, gently supporting him from the shadows. One late night, the dim hospital light cast a golden glow over James, who had dozed off next to the bed. His mother awoke from a light sleep and turned to find Diep still sitting there, her hand gently resting on hers, as if afraid she might be cold. That small gesture didn't feel like it came from a stranger, it was as natural and intimate as a daughter's touch. James's mother reached out and took Diep's hand, her eyes moist and shimmering. "I know you truly love James," she whispered softly, her voice a mix of emotion and gratitude. "Thank you for staying with him during his hardest times. If you can, I hope you'll stay by his side for life. He seems strong, but he's more fragile than you think." Diep didn't say a word. Her eyes welled up, and she nodded slowly, letting that simple gesture say all that needed to be said. In that moment, without any grand declaration, James's mother accepted Diep not just as James's partner, but as her own daughter. From that night on, something changed. James's mother no longer kept a polite distance. She began to ask Diep more personal questions about her family, her career, and the things she loved. When visitors came to see her, she would introduce Diep with pride. "This is Diep, James's girlfriend. She's such a good girl, very capable and kind." James noticed the change too. At first, he was a bit surprised, but then he saw how naturally the bond between them had deepened. Sometimes he'd catch his mother smiling as Diep gently coaxed her to eat, or folding her clothes with such familiarity, and she would just keep looking at her with eyes full of affection. In a place that often felt cold and sterile, something rare and beautiful that bloomed, a connection built not on grand gestures, but through every act of gentle care. In each quiet look, each hand held without words, a new kind of family was quietly being born, not just between two young people, but also with the wholehearted acceptance of a mother who once stood firm like steel, and now was beginning to soften in the face of true, quiet love. After being discharged from the hospital, James's mother slowly regained her strength. Her complexion grew rosier, and her voice, once faint, now carried a renewed firmness. But more than her body, something deeper within her had shifted, an awakening to age, to limits, and to what truly matters in the remaining chapters of her life. She no longer wished to bear the burden of responsibilities as she once did. The sleepless nights with towering stacks of paperwork, the endless meetings, the web of high-stakes relationships, none of it seemed as worthy now. Instead, she began dreaming of peaceful mornings watering plants, quiet afternoons with a book on the balcony, and the sound of children's laughter echoing through the house. So, not long after coming home, she arranged a small meeting at the family home with just 3 people present: herself, James, and Diep. On a quiet weekday morning, bathed in soft sunlight, James's mother calmly placed a folder on the table, not the usual stack of financial reports or corporate memos, but a short handwritten letter and a legally notarized document. She handed it to Diep, her eyes filled with rare, unwavering trust. "Diep," she began gently, "I've thought this through. From today, I'm stepping back. I'm handing the company over to you." Her words left both James and Diep speechless. James was surprised. His mother had always been cautious, rarely putting her full faith in anyone, not even in him. And Diep could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had never imagined she would one day be entrusted with full control of such a major company by James's mother herself. "Do you really think I can handle it?" Diep asked softly, her voice trembling. James's mother nodded, gently taking her hand. "You have not just the skills, but the heart," she said. "You work with integrity. I've observed long enough to know that the company will be in safe hands with you, guided by both wisdom and kindness. That's what I've always hoped for in a successor." Her gaze was calm, yet firm. James looked at Diep, emotion swelling in his chest. He knew just how difficult it was for his mother to relinquish control, and even harder to place her trust in someone. But this moment spoke volumes. That evening, the 3 of them shared a quiet family dinner, the first warm, joyful meal they'd had together in months. The house, which had long lacked laughter, now buzzed with life. James had taken over the kitchen and made his mother's favorite lemon-braised fish, while Diep prepared seaweed soup and a fresh fruit salad. James's mother sat at the table, helping trim vegetables and chatting away like someone who had found a new lightness in life. Near the end of the meal, as the table was being cleared, she turned to the couple with a gentle smile and said, "I'm old now. All I want is for the 2 of you to be happy, to take care of each other, and maybe give me a grandchild to hold sometime soon." The room fell into a sudden, tender silence. James and Diep both blushed. Diep stammered, "Oh, I haven't really thought about that yet." James chuckled, slipping his hand under the table to gently hold hers. His eyes sparkled. "Well, I have," he said. His mother beamed, her eyes glistening with hope. No more words were needed. Diep knew in her heart exactly where she stood. She wasn't just someone trusted with a leadership role in the company. She was family now. She was the woman James's mother had chosen, not only for James but also to continue a legacy of care, strength, and love. The house, once quiet, now brimmed with laughter and life. Inside each of them, a new sense of peace began to bloom. The burdens they had once carried alone now felt lighter, shared, supported, and lifted by trust and love. Outside the window, the afternoon sun spilled golden light across the garden. A new chapter was beginning, not one filled only with work and duty, but one full of warmth, shared dreams, and sweet plans for the days ahead. This story is a beautiful testament to the power of love, family, and sacrifice. It touches on the profound journey of James, his mother, and Diep as they navigate through the complexities of life, business, and relationships. The plot delves deeply into the emotional layers of each character, exploring themes of trust, care, and personal growth. What stands out most is the transformation of James's mother, a once rigid and powerful figure, who gradually opens her heart to Diep. Through her unwavering dedication and quiet love, Diep proves that strength doesn't always come from words but from actions. She cares for James's mother, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love, and this speaks volumes. The story beautifully portrays how, in times of crisis, love and sacrifice can heal even the deepest wounds. James's mother, after overcoming her health struggles, places her full trust in Diep to manage the family business, signifying a passing of the torch and a deep belief in her capabilities. Ultimately, the story is not just about overcoming obstacles in business, but about the quiet yet powerful bonds of family and love that hold everything together. It reminds us that true strength lies in compassion and trust, and that the most important things in life often come from the simplest acts of care.